I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me. Gon' back it up. Matter what? Told you I'ma do me. Why you hating on me? It's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck. Country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up. Only buying car to get tatted up. All that other bull, it don't matter much. You only climb me, I put the ladders up. I ran up.
Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back. We are A&M, almost mediocre sports guys. What is going on, Mike?
Anthony, how you doing, sir? How you doing?
Great.
Looks like another beautiful sunny day there in Colorado.
Always. I mean, it's starting to get cold now. It's starting to get cold here.
Is it?
Oh yeah, it's starting to get cold. The weather wasn't too bad for Halloween, luckily. But it's starting to get a little bit chillier. This week's probably somewhere around the 50s. I mean, last week a little bit of mixture. 50, we were like 70s one day, down to 60, down to 50, down to 40, and then back up into the 70s. Weather's been kind of crazy, but this week's supposed to be a little bit cooler. Might even see some snow on Monday, possibly.
86 it was here on Thursday. Just my kind of weather. I've dealt with the cold, folks. Anthony, I've kind of talked about that. It's just too much for me anymore. I kind of like that warm weather feeling. So, but it's a little bit cooler here, especially with the time change coming up. So, but even down here, you feel a little bit, but still pretty good weather.
For sure. Well, let's get right into this, Mike. Obviously, big news since the last talk. World Series champions are the LA Dodgers, right? Obviously, so. Here's the big thing right now, Mike. I mean, watching this series right now is supposed to be a hell of a series. People thinking, Game 7, we're going to see something spectacular, things like that, right? My question to you is were you surprised by the Dodgers 4-1 series win?
Yankees had no hope of winning that series. They never had a shot in the world to win that series. We talked about that before it started. You and I both had the Dodgers winning in 6.
What about the pitching? That pitching there, that was a lot of what everybody's going on, is that the Dodgers didn't have that pitching staff to withhold even a lineup that consists of Stanton, Judge, and Soto.
No, but I mean, that's what the Dodgers were doing in this series. The pitching was off, so they were relying on the big hit. And in this particular instance, the big hits were coming through. And that's what you always hope for, even the good teams. If one thing's not working, you hope something else does. So you kind of buffer it between the 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you're doing. And that's what the Yankees had to utilize, or that's what the Dodgers had to utilize. And it just played itself out. But we saw, we're not stating anything that's not obvious here with Judge and some of the other parts of the lineup. There were portions that didn't come through. Stanton played well, but the rest of the lineup had a lot of struggles. Judge, I like the kid. He's a good guy. I don't hear anything about him away from the field, but let's get real here. When it comes time, when it's we need you, he's a no-show. He's a ghost.
Well,
and
I totally agree. But for me, I am surprised by a 4-1 series win. Considering the Yankees, yes, they had a better pitching staff. Cole had the one game where he mowed him down, right? That's where they got the win. But at the same time, I didn't think that the Dodgers could withhold with that pitching staff. That's why I figured this was going to go to a game. I said Game 6, but I could have seen 7. So I am surprised by this win. Obviously the last game too, big comeback that they had to make in here. But the other big topic here, Mike, too, between these players, stuff like that, is the showing of, it was supposed to be a Judge Ohtani matchup here, right? So who's more impressive to you, Judge or Ohtani?
Well, obviously both had struggles. Ohtani had the shoulder injury, and and a couple other things going on. He dealt with injuries throughout the season, and so I don't think it was realistic to expect him to be mind-blowingly efficient in this series. I think you were just hoping he'd be serviceable and do some good things. Again, I mean, there was no reason to get excited about Judge playing, against Otani. I'm sorry. There's nothing in his game, in Judge's game, that tells you suddenly he's going to come through in this series and be this big, show up and show out. His history already speaks to this. It went back to last season. He doesn't play well in the series and in the playoffs. He doesn't know how to handle pressure. And so it was never there for me. I never expected it. To your point, we both thought the series might go 6. As you mentioned, you thought it could go 7. But when they got down 2-0, I'm saying, well, it's pretty much a done deal. 3-0, that's like being down 48-0. That's like being down 48-0 in a football game.
But going down was really surprising to me. I figured that they would have split 1 and 2 for sure, but. For me, I just see that the Dodgers just wanted it more, right? I mean, they had to make a big comeback, like I said, in Game 5 to win it all. I mean, they could have fell over in that game also and just said, oh, well, we'll just kind of make our way back. But no, they took care of business when they needed to. But for me, I mean, I don't think either one was impressive. I mean, as far as it goes, I'm not impressed by either one in their World Series debut, I guess is what I should say, at all. There's other players that were more impressive to watch. Obviously, Freddie Freeman was a big one, right? He's another one that was a huge factor for them.
And not only that, but
in every single game. Is that correct, right? I believe.
Yeah, but not only that, playing with multiple injuries, that he was dealing with for long periods of time. So more credit to what he was doing. Obviously, Stanton on the Yankee side, I mean, he played well throughout the playoffs and came through in a big way. But the bottom line here, and it applies to both teams. We've talked about this for years. You and I believe this. We know this. Your dad also agrees with us. Folks, if you want to go out there and if you want your franchise to buy talent, that's fine. You can buy talent, but you can't buy championships. You just really can't. The Yankees in particularly showed this. And it showed up again. You can't buy championships.
Well, and then here's the other. This is the other big question now, because this lineup here, like I said, that consists of Judge, Stanton, Soto. Soto obviously is now the big free agent that's going out there. Is he sticking around in New York, or where does he go? Where's Soto going to end up now? I mean, I know the Giants are out there. Giants, I think, we're a top favorite to get them. For me, what does this say if Soto does leave New York? Now, is that a huge hit to their lineup? Is this a huge loss to them where they can't make it back? Or do they need to have Soto for them to try to make another run at it again?
I mean, if you looked at the big picture, the long picture, I think the Yankees would be advised to try to keep him in-house, keep him, with the Yankees. I just find baseball to be a very a very non-guaranteed sport, so to speak. Yeah. The seasons are so long, rosters change, and even when they don't sometimes, injuries are always a part of it. I don't know that the Yankees have what they need to get back to the series. I really don't. But we know the Orioles sort of underachieved again, that type of thing. Cleveland, people were hoping they would do better, obviously. So there are teams out there that can continue to challenge the Yankees. Will they be a playoff team? Sure. But I really don't think they'll get back. You made a good point the other day off camera that we were talking during the week, that the Yankees are fully in position, or the Dodgers are fully in position to get back if they stay healthy.
Because obviously, like you said, the hurts were in the pitching staff, right? Otani should be coming back. He's going to get in the rotation now. On top of that, I know I mentioned that to you at some point, but for me, Soto needs to go back to New York if they want to make a run. I think that they have to be in there. They need those three. They hit well together. Soto's not the issue. Judge needs to take that step forward in the World Series. He is the man in New York. That is supposed to be the captain, the leader. You have a tremendous regular season, and you fall apart in the playoffs. Okay, and now you get to the World Series. This is your chance to make your mark, show yourself that you're better than Otani. Do what you need to, and you wet the bed. It's terrible.
Again.
And we hate to say it and talk about it, but this is kind of like we've talked about Lamar. It was Lamar Jackson. You got the same feeling that you get from him that you're getting right now. They just can't get over that hump. They just can't do it. But we'll see. I mean, he's still young enough. I mean, he's gonna have another great season next year. He's in his prime, right? So we'll see how this plays out. We got to figure out where Soto's gonna end up. I think the Dodgers are gonna be just fine. They should be able to obviously get back to the playoffs, no doubt. But World Series again, it gets tough and tougher, right? Each year doing it. But I don't see why there's not a lot of weaknesses in that lineup, right? At all.
No, just again, long seasons, ebbs and flows. Injuries do take, do come up at various points in the season. In baseball, again, it's such a long freaking season. But props to the Dodgers. I told you during the week, I didn't realize that was only their 8th championship. That really kind of surprised me. And granted, I don't keep track of that, folks. I mean, obviously the Yankees have 41, but I really thought the Dodgers were somewhere around 15 or 16, something like that. So that actually stunned me that this was only their 8th title. But props to the Dodgers. Good luck next year, Yankees. I don't like you, so I don't care.
All right. Well, moving on, Mike. I had brought to your attention something that was seen via Facebook that somebody had posted, and they were actually being pretty honest about this. This wasn't something that was just kind of a Facebook meme or something, but it was an AD versus Shaq, and it's basically that AD would lock down Shaq in his prime years. Now, the way that he puts this, real quick, Mike, the way he puts this, I don't agree with the way he words it as far as saying he would lock him down in his prime. There's nobody locking down Shaq. Now, if you're going to say that he could play with him, he could have a game against him, I would agree in that sense. And here's the reason why I'm going to say I agree. Shaq cannot defend outside of the paint. AD can shoot threes. He could shoot the jumper. He can dribble. Yep. I mean, he's got moves. Shaq can't defend that far out on AD all game long. He's going to blow by him. He's going to get to the rim. AD's also a very good shot blocker. So sometimes Shaq's little hook shots, those might not go in as often as he thinks because AD's going to be there to block it. So I'm not sitting here saying he's going to lock him and win it, but I think AD could play with Shaq only on the fact that because he can actually pull Shaq out of the paint, get him out of there, and he has to make him work. If not, AD's going to shoot from outside. And even if you're saying AD shoots only maybe 32% from the three-point, oh, well. I mean, so what? That means you shoot 32%, you're still going to get over probably 20 points shooting from if you shoot all day long from out there, either way. So, I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Well, he's not, like you said, but he's not very pointed in what he's saying. Are you going to say that if we're looking at a game that takes place primarily within the paint in that little area, then there's no way that AD dominates Shaq. Not in their primes. It's not going to happen. But if you're going to talk about an overall game where you're looking at every aspect of what each of them can do, you just basically said everything.
Absolutely.
There's no way that Shaquille O'Neal could take Anthony Davis down. It's not possible. This is why we've had these conversations about, Shaq versus a lot of big men, in the past. Because they had a better outside game. Yeah, if you want to, there's nobody that's ever played the game of basketball at the center position that Shaq couldn't take, 3 feet from the rim or within that key. He's just that big and he was that talented. But you stretch him out against centers that can shoot outside and can move. It's going to be a lot more.
Think about with Hakeem. Shaq said Hakeem was the hardest guy he ever had to guard.
Talking about.
Hakeem didn't shoot threes. He was a base.
He
was a 25. He can get the 20-foot jumper and this and that. He didn't have to shoot threes, but AD can. So you're telling me he's saying, and AD's got probably more moves than Hakeem does, just because he's developed a little bit faster. I mean, I'm saying moves as far as that first step move to get by faster. Because.
What Hakeem was lightning fast off that spin, but
on the block, Hakeem wasn't. I'm saying if you put Hakeem and AD at the three-point line and had them do a move, I think AD is going to get faster to the basket than Hakeem would. Now,
I give you that.
If you're on the block, yes, Hakeem is definitely 100% faster in that sense.
Yeah.
He's just got better footwork, better movements and things. I definitely take Hakeem on the block. But I mean, for me, when I look at this, Shaq's inside. I mean, he's just gonna back down, AD, and he's gonna power him over it when it comes to the offensive side. So I think it's a little bit even for them both. But here's another question, Mike: is AD a top 5 center for the Lakers ever, all time?
No.
Who's better?
No.
Top 5 centers.
Well, yeah, I can't give him off the top of my head, but I just personally don't consider him. Obviously, you're looking at Kareem and Shaquille was there. Obviously, Wilt's there, and I'm saying, obviously you could say Davis's overall game is better than what Wilt had to offer, and you put Wilt on the Lakers at the back end of his career. But I'm not going to allow for this one title, and I say this because
but
look how many
I'm
times
not
this guy has
saying
been.
all
We don't
time,
have enough.
though. I'm not saying all-time
We don't
Laker.
have enough.
Top
We don't
5
have-
center. Okay.
Don't have enough on-court.
Think about it.
Don't
Mike,
have enough
though.
on-court time with this guy.
I have no problems with Kareem, Shaq. That's fine. Okay. Even Wilt, that's fine too. But where do you go after that? Who other centers are better than him? Would you take Vlade Divac or Anthony Davis?
If you allow me to incorporate their history of playing time and their injuries, yes, because I don't get any guarantees with Anthony. I got a lot more guarantees with Vlade that he's going to be
If you're just saying
fine.
off of pure talent between them, who are you taking, Vlade or
If you
AD?
get pure talent, and I know he's going to play,
Yes,
pure
they are.
talent,
They're healthy, ready to play.
I agree with you. I would probably put Anthony in the top 5 centers all time.
You're looking at Bynum. You're looking at Divac. I mean, Dwight Howard was
Don't forget
there.
George Mikan.
But Mikens are 4. You still need another one. You can go Kareem, Shaq, Will, Mikan. You still need one more as a top 5. Bynum's not better.
Yeah,
I don't think Bynum's better than AD.
I'm sorry. Give me the oh crap, but the brothers. He was the brothers.
Pau Gasol's not better than AD. Pal's not better.
I'm looking
than
at the
AD.
Lakers, but no, I got.
Pal's not better than AD.
I'll give you that.
He's not better than AD.
No, I'll give you that. Okay, I'll allow it to be top 5, but his injuries.
Because I'm saying this is Lakers. When you're playing with just the Lakers, your time with Lakers, because Powell was fine in Memphis. Powell was great in Memphis. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Dwight was great in Orlando. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you're putting on that Laker jersey, I think he is the top 5. He has to be.
But here's my thing,
and
though.
He's got a ring.
But here's the thing. Though, and I'm going to put this out there too, bud. I don't have to worry about those other guys that maybe weren't top 5. If you want to talk about Powell, you want to talk about Gasol, you want to talk about Vlade, I don't have to worry about those guys quitting on me. And I'm sorry, that's the problem. And Davis quits. He's always, ever since he left New Orleans, he's a quitter sometimes. And that's a problem for me. You win one thing in a bubble
but
really
the other
everybody
thing
now
is,
questions.
why is he quitting though? Does it have something to do with the way that things are run in LA when he doesn't make decisions, when he should be the leader of this team, but you got somebody else in there bringing his kids in to play the game, making a mockery of this now when it should be AD's team? But guess what? When they go through him this year, 31.8 points per game so far this year for AD, and they are 5-1, 4-2 now, 5-2 after the win today. That is why AD needs to be the leader of this team. He is in charge. They need to run the offense. He probably quit because of that guy LeBron there. I hate to say it, folks, but LeBron is not as much as you people want to say here. LeBron's a great team. Everybody wants to play with him. It's not true all the time, guys.
It's
not true.
But my thing with Davis, if and I've never heard him say this, but like that he was unhappy or anything like that. But if it go for what you're talking about, AD, if you're not happy with it and you want to be the guy, and they're not wanting to do that for you, then leave, or just sit there, milk it, throw out an injury, sit for 25 games, come back, play when you want to, and how you want to, and essentially cost your team potential victories because you're not committing to the effort. And I understand that, and it's with all teams, and I feel this way. But I mean, one day we got to get into this Jokic thing again with the Nuggets at some point. But with the Lakers, but I allow for Davis to be top 5 because of what you're talking about. But I'll always have those concerns that, and maybe he proved me wrong going forward. But right now, his attitude and whatever injuries he does actually have or has actually had have always been a concern for me. We never saw these in New Orleans. He never had all these
Well,
injuries.
and here's the other thing now. I mean, obviously they have to play their certain amount now, but
Yeah.
this year, I think will tell us exactly the AD we see, what we're gonna get from it. It's gonna be. It looks like they're, like I said, they're running the whole entire offense through him. It's AD's team right now. He's getting the most points right now. He's doing his thing. Can he withstand it, or is he gonna get hurt? And is that gonna affect his team, or does he play? I'd be happy if he played 72 games. If he played 70 games, right? I'd be happy with
If he
that.
played 65 games.
So here's the thing, right? You play 70 games and you give everything you got, and you're up for MVP discussions, things like that. You even get to go to the finals, lose. I mean, you're still up there then. And you're going to be up there.
Yeah, just give me your effort. Give me your effort. That's what I need. Just give me your effort.
I think this is just what he needed. I think he needed to know that he was in charge, that this was his team, that, like I said, we'll get a little bit in depth into this because we got to talk about Jokic and this Denver Nuggets team. I also want to get your input too about Bronny and the Lakers, what you feel about this situation. Obviously, get a little bit more in depth with that too. So we're gonna wait for that for a different time, folks. Just because we do want to kind of get into this. The Nuggets are kind of in a weird spot right now. And it's almost kind of like it's what is that? It's that championship or bust time for the Lakers or for the Nuggets because it's like if they don't win, they're gonna break up this team, and I strongly feel that that's what's gonna happen. I think you need to, but we'll get into that for sure at a different time, folks. But we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna get back in on our picks of the week. We are back, and it is time for the picks of the week. Alrighty, it is time for picks of the week, guys. We have been doing actually really, really good this week in picks. Mike, I told you I was in like a pick 'em with our friend Zach, things like that. I wasn't paying attention too much these past few weeks, but I started looking at it and I pulled it up and I had to tell the wife, I was like, man, I am in second place right now with these picks.
No kidding. Good job.
Obviously, I did not do well Thursday. Houston really blew it for me. Let's kind of talk a little bit about that first, Mike. Obviously, a tough loss for the Texans, right? 21-13 loss to the Jets. Are you more worried about the Texans, or are the Jets on their way up?
I'm really not sold on the Jets yet. I do have some concerns about the Texans. Obviously you lost a weapon that you brought in to help you with Diggs.
Torn ACL,
that's,
folks. I don't know if anybody heard, but torn ACL. He is out for the season with that one. Huge loss.
Yeah, and at his age, that might be really the last we see of a productive Diggs, because with everything receivers have to do with the cuts and everything. A big loss there. Stroud, we talked about this too. He plays really well at home.
Struggling. He is struggling.
But he gets on the road. He gets on the road, and it's a different.
Yeah. You mentioned that last week, Mike. You mentioned that last week.
Yeah, and I know they've got some offensive line issues. Obviously, they're solid at the running game. And Stroud is Stroud. But it's a sophomore season. People make adjustments. I think that's part of what we're seeing here. But I do have some concerns about that. I think we both felt real strongly that Houston had the potential. Keyword there, folks, potential to reach at least like maybe possibly the AFC Championship game. Super Bowl is kind of that's a lofty goal for any team. Maybe Houston's not quite there yet, but right now, starting to have some concerns about even the AFC Championship game being a reality. It's I mean they'll be a playoff team, and
Yeah,
there's a good shot they'll be a winner with everything that's going on with the Colts.
for sure.
But
Yeah.
it's shaky. It's shaky.
Injuries obviously going to kill him. That's rough losing Diggs. Mixon though obviously still running really well for them. I like what Mixon's done for them. So they just kind of need to. They just need somebody to get that little pick me up, right? I mean, Tank Dell obviously can hold it down. I know he can. Nico Collins has been injured too, so hopefully they get him back soon. But the offensive line, there is trouble there. I think that's the issue. I don't really think that it's a lot of Stroud's. I mean, obviously, I it is him too. But when you don't have a great offensive line, it's hard for you to make decisions, right? The right decisions. So. They need a little bit of offensive line. I think they'll make the adjustments. I still find them as being I think they can still be division winners. Obviously, playoff team, things like that. So a little bit of a bump in the road, but I did like what I seen. It felt like Adams finally was kind of fitting in with Wilson, right? That's what you need to see is that both of them can both have because Wilson coming in, he doesn't know how to take it that Adams got brought in, right? Do I lose my touches now? Are my plays going to go to Adams now because they have the camaraderie here? Even with Lazard was their leading touchdown catcher at the beginning point of the season. Now it seems like they're meshing, right? So I don't know for sure if this is a good sign or not. I like the Texans. I think the Texans are a great team, but it's tough on a Thursday, right? When it's a short week, you don't know exactly if it was just you're still tired a little bit. You're on the road, like you said. So I'm going to make this be more of I am a little bit more worried about the Texans right now because of the injuries than I am that the Jets are on the up also. But we'll see what's in store for them next week for sure.
Well, and the last thing I'll say about that, with what was going on the other night in the game, I get. You're making some spectacular touchdown catches. I understand this. I really do believe there's a degree of showboating going on here with this kid, and I know he's young, but let's not every catch needs to be a highlight reel.
That was a pretty nice catch.
You're dropping balls. Before you go into the end zone.
I agree with that. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous, and this is happening way more often than it should be.
And not just with with other teams.
It's all over the place. It's happening with everybody. It's happening with wide receivers, it's happening with defensive backs, happening with linebackers, everybody. All these players are doing this. What is so hard with just running through? They teach you that in the combine. Run straight through when you're doing your 40, right? Run through, run hard. Same thing as you're running a touchdown. I don't understand the point or how it looks good for you to sit there and hold your hand out and drop it as you walk. Like, what's the point of it? Is that a disrespect thing? Is it a showboating? I don't know what it is. Other than costing your team a turnover, maybe a safety, whatever it may be. It's costing your team. So they need to stop.
What if you do that in a playoff game?
It's ridiculous.
And those kind of things cost you points.
And not to mention, we will bring it up also later, but the defensive back from the Bears on the Jaden Daniels Hail Mary also, right? Showboating with the crowd.
Twice.
Plays going on. He's getting ready to throw.
Back-to-back
He's the one that tips it for the touchdown into Noah Brown's hand, right? Just shows you guys, wait until the clock says 0-0-0. Play through it all. Finish every single play till the end of the clock, because you just never know, and that is a killer for the Bears right there. Killer for them.
Last thing I could say. Shout out to the Jets. Good win. Still not sold on Rodgers. We'll see what happens, but they got a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a chance. We'll see what happens.
We'll see for sure. Well, first game we're gonna get into, we got Cowboys at Falcons. Mike, the Falcons are a 3.5-point favorite in this one.
Dallas is pretty much done, I think, but they have no running game. Even if they get their guys back on defense, what's the difference? You weren't stopping the run before they got hurt. You're not stopping it after they got hurt. I'll defend Dak here in the sense that he really only has one receiver to throw to.
Yeah.
There's no running game. There's no running game here. And I'm not a Dak guy. I'm not, and real quick, Bud has I mean, he has been adamant that Dak is a solid quarterback, and I agree with him. But Bud will go a little bit above that and say, hey, he's a really good quarterback. And so I'm going to kind of defend Bud's point here is that Dak really doesn't have much to work with now. He's got no running game, one receiver, a defense that I think sometimes quits, and these are just there's nothing going on in Dallas right now that's right,
Well,
and I really don't think
and
they're
we have
going
to think
play
about it this way too. There's a lot of pressure in Dallas being a Dallas quarterback. It's huge pressure.
Right.
There's no other team in the league that you could play for and have more pressure being under center in. At all. There's not another team. I don't care who you could say. There is no other team that's going to be more pressure than playing for the Dallas Cowboys under center. Being a Cowboy, period, is rough enough. But to be the quarterback, to be the leader of this team, do you know how much pressure Jerry's going to be put on you? And here's the thing. All this criticism, all this, stuff that people say about Dak, what's the difference between a Dak and a Tony Romo?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end
And
of the
I'm not
day.
hating on Tony. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on Tony. I love Tony. I love listening to Tony. Tony's a tremendous commentator. I think he was a great quarterback. I have nothing wrong. But I'm just saying there's all this love for Tony, all this hate for Dak. Is it because Tony no longer wears the jersey, so now you can give him the love that he needs now because he's just commentating on the game? But, I mean, at the same time, it's not like Tony won anything the same way that Dak's won.
I think the talent was a little bit better around Dak than what it was Tony. So the expectations were, I think those
Yeah,
are
Des Bryant. Des Bryant's better than CD.
No, I get it, but I get it. I mean, he has some decent talent, but I just think the overall on both sides of.
Think about it. Would you take DeMarco Murray and Des Bryant, or would you take Ezekiel Elliott and CD Lamb? And I'm talking now.
No, see, I've never liked Ezekiel. I think he's just a waste of space. I really do. Great at Ohio State, had a few good years coming out and playing for the Cowboys, and it was just a bust, and he needed to be let go, and he was. And he's just back, I think, in part just for image purposes. I think that's exactly why Jerry brought him back. He didn't bring him back because he was going to be the answer at running back. He brought him back because he's a marketing tool. That's why Jerry Jones is anymore. But we talked about this. This is your biggest problem, Cowboy fans, and I'm not telling you, Bud's not telling you anything you don't know. Dallas's biggest problem is JJ. The guy they need to collectively get it together as a family, have an intervention, tell this guy he's going to be removed, and he's just going to deal with it. And if you want to watch the games from the home or whatever facility they put you in, that's fine. But that's where your contribution needs to be now. This is ridiculous that this guy still oversees this program, this franchise. Yeah. I mean, what a killer! I can't believe most Dallas fans are on some type of suicide watch right now.
Let's not get into too much Cowboy stuff. I mean, I hear about it enough all week long on these shows about Cowboys this, Cowboys that, and I'm so sick and tired of it. Enough of with this already. Cowboys. They know what they need to do. Jerry Jones knows what he needs to do. He needs to step away, or he just needs to start saying, okay, I'm just going to let my office take care of this, and I'm just going to go enjoy my games in my suite and just sit there and enjoy, which is what he should do.
Yeah, so my last two things, folks. My apologies. No jokes about suicide. It's a very serious deal I've dealt with myself in my lifetime, so just a bad joke. But to the game itself, I don't like where Dallas is headed, Bud. Atlanta, I think, if they're playing like they're supposed to, and I think they will this weekend, I think they take care of Dallas and they cover on the spread.
Yeah, I'm taking.
I think with Dallas
I'm taking
with
Falcons.
Tampa Bay. This is Atlanta's chance.
Yeah, and I like the Falcons at home more. The Cowboys, I just didn't like anything. I haven't liked anything I've seen from them this year. So
I think they're done. But
watching that game against San Francisco, it looked like they maybe had something going on at the beginning, and then San Francisco just took over. And that's not a great San Francisco team, and they're so decimated right now with injuries and stuff too. So I agree. I like the Falcons, and I do feel like they're going to cover this on this game also. Yep. Next game we have on the list is the Dolphins at the Bills. Bills are a 6.5-point favorite.
Ooh, divisional games are always tough. That's a pretty good spread for a divisional game, even in Buffalo. But Buffalo went down to Miami and took care of business. Granted, they did it without Tua, or at least for the majority of the game. I really didn't like what I saw with Miami. I know it's Tua's first game back. I mean, I didn't know what exactly to expect, but I didn't expect it to be sort of that big of a struggle.
He seemed a little rusty. to start it off.
And it's understandable. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's missed the season.
Exactly. And I mean, you're missing because of head injuries. So, I mean, at the same time, you know, I think Miami needs to think, because this is a huge must win for them. With the Jets winning this week and stuff, obviously New England last week winning. This is a pretty big win this would be a huge win for them if they could pull it off. I just don't see it happening. I'm not huge on, like you said, what I saw from Tua last week. I like the Bills in this one. They're at home. I'm definitely taking the Bills to win. It's a division game though. 6.5. I'm not taking them to cover though.
Sound like Buffalo. I think Josh is pretty much, he's balling. He's having a good season. You know, he's still in the MVP conversation. I think Miami at the end of the season, I really do think they might need to start looking and reassessing their coaching position. I'm not sure this guy is what they need long term to help fix what's going on in Miami, and we're still not so sure where Tua is going to be. And because of those things, being on the road, we don't know what the weather's exactly going to be like, but I just, for the life of me, can't see Miami going in there off of what we saw last week. Even if Tua improves on the rust aspect of things, that they're going to go in there and beat the Bills. And actually, I'm going to take Buffalo to win the game, bud. And I'm actually, surprisingly, I'm going to take Buffalo to cover on this game.
Okay. Not bad. I could see it. I could definitely see the Bills go ahead and covering that for sure, but then again, you know, Miami, they got big playmakers. That's the thing. And you get Tua back, you know, those playmakers get open. They make a huge play, and you know, you got a different ball game. So we'll see how it goes.
And like you said, bud, this is a must win for Miami.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Next game on the list here we have is Bengals at the Raiders at the Bengals. Sorry, Bengals are a 7-point favorite in this one.
I'll tell you what, but Cincinnati just can't find a way to get out of their own way sometimes. But something tells me that somehow, I'm not saying that, and I am going to Super Bowl. We know this. They're not going to Super Bowl. They're not, folks. I got to let that go. They're not going. But something I feel like is changing with that team. I'm not saying they're going to have the best record in football.
Because, I mean, Joe Burrow said they only have to win like the next 7 of the next 9, and they should be fine.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I think they're going to continue to improve. But it's just a little too late to make that big, huge, you know, going to make it to the AFC Championship game type of thing. I'm not getting that feel. There's too many struggles going on. And like we talked about last week and the week before and the week before that and last season, they can't seem to clue in on how to fix an offensive line. Apparently, they just don't know how, and that'll always be a problem. Joe may not last another 5 seasons playing in Cincinnati. But I do think, what's the spread?
7.
Raiders, I don't even know what to do with the Raiders anymore either. I feel bad for Pierce. He needs a quarterback so bad. I'm going to take Cincinnati obviously to win this game, and I do think Cincinnati's going to cover. I really do. I really do.
This year has shown me that there are two.
Crosby needs to get out.
There are 2 quarterbacks that are great, but they have shown that their defenses have made a difference for them. And what I mean by that is Joe Burrow has played very well for the most part this season. The defense has not showed up for him. Patrick Mahomes has played terrible, but his defense has played tremendously.
Yeah.
One team's 3-5, one's 7-0. So if you guys don't believe that defense wins, defense is the most important part rather than the offense, you better look at those 2 teams, and it's going to show, because I believe Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes could be on the same level. I think they are at the same level. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, those guys can all be at the same level together. It's just Mahomes wins more than them. That's the thing. Mahomes just wins more. But this year, he's not the best quarterback out of the 3. He's not. He's not the best quarterback. Actually, out of the 4, out of all of them, he's not the best quarterback this year. Mahomes is the worst. Lamar's had a better year. Burrow's had a better year. Josh Allen has had a better year than them. He's just higher in the MVP odds because he's 7-0. He's like 3rd. How are you third? What is he? He's like 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. How do you have more interceptions and touchdowns and you're in the MVP voting?
You and your dad pointed this out last year, bud, and
This is ridiculous.
I've started to notice this too, and I like Kansas City. I'm all about dynasties, folks. I kind of like it's kind of like that throwback thing. If you either then just shut up until you can beat them. So I give them props for that. But Kansas City really does get a lot of favorable calls, and sometimes they're so egregious that you can't help but wonder if the refs aren't just like literally looking the other way on these things just because it's Kansas City.
Well,
and to your point, but
I have no problems. For me, I have no problems if they lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
If Kansas City Chiefs are 7-0 this year, Patrick Mahomes is not 7-0 this year.
Yeah.
If we're going off his stats and that's all we're going off,
you know why
just
though,
a
right?
mediocre defense like Joe Burrow has, he would be 3-5 this year also.
I think what part of it is, bud, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think this is kind of part of what they're suggesting. I don't agree with that perspective if that's what it is, folks. I think they look at the fact that he's got no running game right now. His receiving core is taking a massive hit. Obviously, you look at what's going on at the tight end position. You've got Kelsey, who's not having his greatest year. And so here's Patrick, even though he's struggling, but they're still 7-0. They do acknowledge the defense, but Patrick has established so much of this image of that clutch dude that they just say, well, he's got to be the MVP then because look what's going on. They're undefeated. But I agree with you, bud. He's not even the third best quarterback right now. Some might even argue, even statistically, maybe he's not even the fourth best. But they're going to say, well, look at though, Mike, Anthony, they're 7-0. Well, that's okay, but the record is a record. It's not about your personal stats.
Jaden Daniels at 6-2 is more impressive than Patrick Mahomes at 7-0. I don't care.
100%.
He is way more impressive at 6-2 than 7-0. He is doing
Are
this
you telling me that Jared Goff is?
I mean, I'm not saying Terry McLaurin is a scrub or anything like that, but he's not Travis Kelce, right?
Are you telling me that Jared Goff is not a better quarterback right now than Patrick Mahomes? Have you looked at his completion percentage?
Jared Goff's throwing for like 98% on the completion.
This guy is playing off. This guy is playing off the planet right now.
Then they're killing everybody. They are killing everybody. They're not even talking about it. They are destroying. We had this talk, right? What was it with my dad, right? We were talking about, we made picks. My dad he wanted us to make picks for these last week about who was going to score the most points, which team was going to score the least points. I picked the Lions against the Titans, and they scored the most points. They had 50 points. They were 50-plus points last week.
Yep.
They are killing teams right now. And Jared Goff is on a whole nother level right now, but we're not talking about that either, right? Because we're still worried about Mahomes. We're still worried about the same guys. Grant, I get it. This is going to be a big test for them this week with the Packers. We're going to get into that game, so we're going to get back on track here a little bit with these picks here because I'm going to get back.
So like I said, but Cincinnati cover.
I'm okay with that. I like Cincinnati to win the game for sure. I'm definitely going to cover. I just regardless of how bad the Bengals defense is, like I said, they have no quarterback. Running game just isn't great. Pierce needs to get a quarterback for sure.
And Crosby needs to get out of there.
Burrow's going to eat up that defense. He's going to throw all day for sure. So, hey, I talked about Barkley one time, and he did great when he was in it. Start Burrow probably this week in your fantasy, folks. Because I think he's going to have a good one for sure on this one. Chargers at Browns next one. The Chargers are a 1-point favorite. What a tough game.
It's a tough game. I like it though. I keep saying, you can't continue to win by just, running the ball, but so far, Harbaugh continues to prove me wrong. But at some point, you're going to reach a point where you have to be able to throw this football.
I agree.
And Cleveland doesn't necessarily have to be that game. And I know what happened last week. I don't know what happened. We haven't even talked about Baltimore yet, but we'll get into that. That was a stunner for me. Anthony and I talked about this, and I had said that the Baltimore Brown game was a perfect sleeper game for the spread.
Yeah.
I thought the Ravens would win. But here we go, and I get it. bringing another quarterback. I don't know. He played great. Blah 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 blah. It's a divisional game. Those things play themselves out sometimes. But I don't feel like Cleveland's got two of them in a row. They could prove me wrong. Somehow Harbaugh's got this running game that manages to do what it's got to do, unless they're playing Arizona apparently. But I'm going to take the Chargers here. But there's something I like about this with the Chargers, and I'm still not sold on the Browns. We'll see if they prove me wrong. But I like the Chargers to win.
Mike, I'm riding the Jameis Winston bus. I'm on it. I'm on it, Mike. And the only reason why is because this year, quarterback-wise, I just talked about Burrow not being great, right? His team not doing great. Patrick Mahomes not playing well. Josh Allen isn't putting up the numbers he once was, right? He's not throwing for 300-something yards. He's not going nuts. Lamar is, but it's the young quarterbacks, but it's also the return of quarterbacks, Sam Darnold. It's a comeback for Darnold. Baker Mayfield proving that he can still do this, right? Same thing, I think, with Jameis Winston. I think this is another chance for Jameis. I think last week proved that's a huge win against Baltimore, Mike. Against Baltimore?
Yeah, it's huge.
Granted, we talked about this and that, and I just did not see the win coming. Like, I felt that they can maybe keep close. I think Jameis is going to push this team. Do I think they're going to make a push to play? No, nothing like that. But I think this is going to get a good confidence boost for them. I think it's good for Cleveland. We were talking about, can we get their quarterback? Where's their quarterback that they need, right? I think this is it. I think Jameis could be that guy for them. I like what they looked like against Baltimore. I'm on the train. I'm taking Cleveland to win this game this week. I want to. Yeah, I'm gonna write it. I want to see it. I could be wrong, but I could be. They could fall down, but I like the defense in Cleveland for sure. You said it's just it's mostly running. Herbert threw for a lot last week, but he didn't throw a touchdown last week though. He threw for a lot, but no touchdowns. But I think he's not gonna be able to throw as much against Cleveland. The defense is better. They're gonna have to run the ball, but I think they can. I think Cleveland's defense can shut him down if Winston even plays half of the game he did against Baltimore. If you beat a team like Baltimore, that's a big momentum boost against going to a team like Chargers, who are not as good as them. I could see them getting this win also, and they're at home with this game.
Yeah, I like listening to what Winston has to say away from the game. He seems like a pretty solid dude.
Yeah.
What I don't need to see going forward is, granted, one win, it was a big win. You can't have pick Winston come back into play because this guy's notorious for his picks.
Hey, he is. But I think as you grow, he's learning.
I hope so.
He's learning from it.
Because it didn't work in camp.
Of course not. He didn't. But at the same time, I think
it didn't work in New Orleans.
Hey, it didn't work for Sam Darnold in the Jets.
Good point.
And he's working out here. That's what I'm saying. Baker, it didn't work out in Cleveland. He's working out in Tampa. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a return. We're going to get into the Colts, but Flacco now, Anthony Richardson's out. You're talking about a guy that, we'll get into that as the Sunday night game because I do want to talk about this Anthony Richardson situation here, but we're going to get into that soon. But the next game we have on here right now is the Patriots at the Titans. Titans are a 3-point favorite in this one, Mike. I don't know if I like that.
Man. Regardless of what happens at the QB position with the Titans moving forward, whether Rudolph, stays as the starter or Levis comes back, you're going to have to draft somebody. You're going to pick somebody up in free agency because this is your biggest failed position on this team right now is QB. And I'm not exactly sure where they go with it. Next year's not going to be a rich QB, rich in QBs in the draft, so it's just going to be kind of see what happens.
Shador is probably their best option that they're going to have to go after, I would believe. There'll be other teams looking at him too, the Giants, probably that type of thing. But Tennessee has so many problems. But surprisingly, what did you say the spread was, bud? 3 Titans.
I'll tell you what, I do have the Titans winning the game, but I can easily see them not covering the spread. So that's the route I'm going to go. Titans to win, but not to cover on the spread.
I'm actually going Patriots in this game. I like what
I don't blame him.
I like May.
I think May's got some potential here.
No, I like May a lot. I do. Obviously, I've been a fan of May. He went to North Carolina, so I watched his career in North Carolina. I thought he was very good there. I didn't always think he was ready for the NFL yet. I have said that before. But I think so.
But you also said that you were high on him around in the draft
I
as
did.
far as some of the guys that were projected,
well, I mean,
which was spot on, Bub, which is spot
I
on.
do because I liked him obviously because Penix has not played, which is why I liked him a little bit higher than him. I figured make a start
Yeah.
earlier. Obviously, I didn't have him higher than Caleb, but I did have obviously Jaden as my number one. But I did like May up there, but I didn't think he was NFL ready. He needed to sit back and watch, which is what he did. They did sit back and watch the beginning, and I think it helped him. I think he's played really well, and this is a good game for him too. I mean, the Titans are an okay pass defense, so I think May should be fine though, and I think the Patriots find a way to win this game.
Yeah, it's a tough one. We'll see what happens.
So this next game here, this is my guy here. I mean, I'm on it, man. Commanders at the Giants. Washington is a 4-point favorite. Mike, Jaden's just on another level, right? That Hail Mary again. So we kind of brought that up earlier there, but what a way to win the game last week against Chicago. Also going against Caleb, right? That's huge. That was a big matchup. They didn't know if he was going to play. He had the oblique, but he did come in, play, and he had a tremendous game. For sure, and like I said, he had the Hail Mary to win it. But where is Jaden right now for you on the rookie status and even MVP status?
Oh, I think he's a runaway at the rookie of the year. He's a runaway. If he stays healthy and the production continues, it's a landslide. I mean, he's a no-brainer. I told you that I really think, and we know this doesn't happen, where rookies are thrown into the MVP conversation.
Yeah.
But if this play continues and this performance continues and these numbers continue and the wins continue, you got to at least give him a shout out and say, hey, let's put him in there because he's balling and let's see what goes on here. What I really don't think people have talked about as much, a few have talked about the play itself, and what happened with the Bears and what they didn't do on that particular play. But I think what gets lost in the shuffle on that play is how Jaden extended that play out by almost 10 seconds by running around.
Line was great. He got it. He was moving.
Blocking
He scrambled.
that play.
Terrific.
Stretching out the play, letting it set up, and then obviously showing his arm strength. But you're talking about a guy, like you said, he threw this ball still suffering with a rib injury.
Exactly.
And that's how was still suffering with rib injury. And the other part of this was to the brilliance of the offensive coordinator. The play prior to that, with that little amount of time left, you were smart enough to try to pick up a quick, 13-yard.
Absolutely. The outplay was the big key to the play. With like 10 to 11 seconds left, they throw that quick out to get it to like 3 seconds in to give him the chance to give the play. That was the big key play there. Down there. A lot of folks, they don't look at this. It's just throw it down there, let it fly, and see what happens, right? Absolutely. That was smart. That's why I love this team right here. They're making huge things. Mike, I know you weren't huge on Dan Quinn. I know you weren't huge on him. Once again, I think it's just another learning. He's another guy that's getting another revenge tour back, right? I can do this.
Well,
I'm doing what I can. Because I love what he has done. They've drafted correctly. Their defense is getting better in Washington. That defense is really good in Washington. So obviously for me, I'm taking Washington in this game. I got him to cover. Jaden's going to have another great game. I think he's going to go off against that Giants team. It's not going to be a good game, I think. And they need to. I think they need to go out there and get a big win like that. They need to just go out there and just beat the Giants, win and take over that division. Because I think, watch out, Washington is here to stay. And that NFC East that was once ran by those Cowboys and Eagles are no longer. I think the Commanders are now looking forward to taking over and running with this division here soon. Unless the Eagles find a way to kind of get a little bit better on defense and step up. But the Eagles have started playing better ball too. But watch out, Washington's on their way.
Yeah, and what'd you say the spread was?
4.
Yeah, divisional games are always tough. I think the Giants make it like interesting, and by that I mean not just get blown out because it's a divisional game, but Washington's going to win this game, and I think they're going to cover. I'm a big, massive Jaden fan. It's just nice to see Washington after all these years have a chance to start doing something. So go Washington. Let's see what happens. Love you, Jaden. Keep up the performance, sir.
For sure. Next one on the list we have is the Saints at the Panthers. Saints are a 7-point favorite on the road, Mike. They are getting Carr back, so that could be a little bit of the reason why that spread's high. But I don't know. I like New Orleans to win the game for sure, but 7 points against the Panthers. I liked Panthers played Denver last week. What was it, 28-14, I believe the score ended. I liked what Bryce kind of looked like to start the game. He had a nice little drive to get down there. But that was a pretty good defense he went against. But I mean, Denver did shut him down second half. So I'm going to go with New Orleans, but I'm not going to take them to cover.
You know what says a football game is bad is when a person has a ticket to the game and doesn't want to go and they can't give it away. And that's what this game is. I mean, you don't. Nobody wants to even see this game. The only people who should probably in that stand are crickets. Carolina showed a little improvement against Denver, like you're talking about, Bud. Bryce, I just feel so bad for this kid. I say it every week. I hope he gets traded and gets a change of venue to hopefully see what he can actually do. I'm not sure if Carolina's just not beaten down to this point that they just almost give up. I'm going to give them one more shot. Tampa, or I should say New Orleans, to win the game. I agree with you, Bud. A little bit of pride left in Carolina. I think they can find a way to stay within the spread. At least I hope so, because I do feel bad. I mean, that's my state. Carolina's my state. So come on, guys.
Next one on the list here, Broncos at Ravens. Ravens are a 9.5-point favorite against Denver. Is that a little too high for that Denver defense?
Oh, but you know what? 2 weeks ago, I would have told you. I don't care what Denver's doing. The Ravens can probably cover the 10. And then I see last week, and no, it's a road game. There's something there with the Ravens. There's just something that's just. I was telling you, this team is a freight train. There's nothing stopping them. And yeah, here you go. You went out to Cleveland, and you just get beat up. Denver's playing better. Bo Nix continues to show some improvement. I hate to do it. Obviously, I'm taking the Ravens to win. Denver's got to prove it to me. I think Ravens are going to bounce back. I think they want to make a statement. I'm not saying they're going to beat them by 20, but I think they're going to cover the spread. There's just something telling me Denver's got 2 games now with the Ravens and Kansas City back-to-back. This is going to be part of Denver's proving ground. Let's see where you're actually at. And I just don't know that they're quite ready for that. I got to go with Ravens to win and cover.
Well, this is crazy for sure. Mike, what would you do if I told you at the beginning of the season, come week 9, Broncos and Ravens play, these two teams would both be 5-3?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I know.
This is crazy to think that both these teams are 5-3, and they've had 2 different roads to get to 5-3. Right? Denver has had to overcome what was this very slow start. Bo looked like he was kind of struggling with the offense, just a lot of checkdowns. Didn't even look like the ball was going to get moved through the air at all. Ravens started off looking real good. They had the tough loss against Kansas City. Then they lost to the Raiders, but then they just went on a tear, right? I mean, they just looked like they were just, like you said, a force to be reckoned with. This game is interesting to me because I wonder exactly what the defense is going to do with Lamar, if they're going to be able to handle Lamar. But I'm on the same boat you are. That was a terrible loss to Cleveland last week. They're at home. I don't think this is going to be a very good game as far as it being as close as people probably think maybe it could be and want it to be. I am going to take Baltimore. I do think they're going to cover that spread. 2, I just think it's going to be a rough day for Bo. It's in Baltimore. Like I said, they're coming off a very bad loss to Cleveland. They needed that win. They definitely need this win. They can't go to 5-4 at all for sure. But this would be a huge upset and a terrific win for Denver though on the other side, right?
Sure.
It would be obviously a huge uplift to Bo especially if he has a good game for them. Huge for Sean, I think. Obviously, it moves him up in that division. You and I have talked about, maybe if it's a possibility, if it comes to it, that Denver could give Kansas City a run for their money if they're undefeated. I totally agree with you because I like the defense that Denver has shown there. But I think this is, unfortunately for Denver, this is going to be a little bit of a tough road game for them this week. And that's not to say that they're out at all. I mean, going to 5-4 is fine. I guess especially playing that Ravens team, but they're definitely going to have to figure out a way to stop Lamar and Derek for sure. That's going to be the big key right there because I think Zay is going to be locked up by Surtain for most of the game, which is going to help out a lot. So they're just going to have to really focus on making sure that Henry doesn't have a huge game against them, and then hopefully make a turnovers. You got to get turnovers. That's the big key in this game.
Yeah.
Turnovers and let Bo work out the shorter field if you can. That'll be a huge key. If they can do that, then they can find themselves there at the end of the game. I will say that.
Yeah, and like we know, I mean, Kansas City is not going to go undefeated, and even the good teams, the great teams with the two-headed attack that Baltimore has, with Jackson and Henry, and just being an overall talented team, you're going to have your struggles. We just didn't expect him to struggle against Cleveland, but it happens.
Yeah.
But like I said, when Baltimore loses this game, they've already lost what I believe is going to be home field advantage, just to what they've had happen right now. But I look for a big bounce back here, and unfortunately, I think they're going to win and they're going to cover.
For sure.
And Denver's going to.
And the next one we have on the list is the what do we have here? Jaguars at the Eagles. The Eagles are a 7.5-point favorite on this one.
Eagles starting to come into form. Guys are coming back. I think Hurts is starting to find a little bit of a rhythm. Defense is playing better. Jacksonville is Jackson. This is a complete overhaul. Basically, at the end of the season, this team is toast. Coach is gone. There's going to be big changes in Jacksonville, with really just about the quarterback being one of the few positions that won't be affected by that, as far as him not being there. But what a mess! And there's nothing Jacksonville has shown me that says they could win the game. So I've got the Eagles winning and covering. I don't really, unfortunately, even if it was a 12-point spread, I could see probably Philadelphia winning the game. Jacksonville was a mess.
I agree with you. Eagles are finding their way a little bit here. Obviously, Saquon has been a huge addition to them. I love Saquon, man. I love that they
Yep.
I don't love that they brought him onto there, but I love that they, in a way that they did, because he was just getting mistreated in New York, right? So that's why I like that they brought him in. He needed to go somewhere else, and they're treating him correctly in Philadelphia, and he's helping them. He's a big reason why they're 5-2 right now. Hurts just needs to not turn over the ball, right? That's the big key. He had the big turnover at the beginning of the season stuff. He's got his weapons back, though. AJ's back, so him and Devontae there. I know Goddard's been a little bit banged up throughout the year, but when they all get healthy, I think the Eagles will be okay. Just that defense. They just got to beef up that defense a little bit more and get there. But obviously, I think I'm with you. I like the Eagles to win this game. For some reason, though, I feel like 7.5 is hard. That half is throwing me off. So I'm going to, just because I don't really like that half ever, I'm just going to go ahead and say Eagles win, but I'm not going to take them to cover this week on it, just because I don't like that half for some reason. I just the half's always here, and I've never. Let's be honest, folks. I'm not a spread guy. I've never been. Mike knows that. I've never really bet against the spread, but I have no problems doing it. If I'm not betting for money, I'm not putting no money down on this, so it's okay. I'm not putting no money, but I'm never good with spreads, folks. That's for sure. You probably can go back, watch most of these episodes, and be like, yeah. And I think he'll pick the games, but the spreads, yeah, he's terrible. He's terrible. What we got? Next one. Next matchup here, we got the Bears at the Cardinals. Caleb Williams going in there against Kyler Murray. Arizona is a 2-point favorite. Mike, who do you got here?
I don't know. The Bears kind of showed me a little bit of a reality, I guess, last week. Caleb, he's still gonna have those games. He was playing really well, but you're still gonna have those games where you struggle. Obviously, he had one, and the Bears struggled as a whole. And even on their defensive side, as good as they are on defense, we saw the brain freeze they had on the last play of the game. But Caleb showed some impressive things, with the comeback to get the game to where it was. But I don't know. As much as I struggle to do this, and I don't really credit. I will say this about Murray. Okay, I'll say this about Murray. It's always going to be hard to find him on the field unless you've got a magnifying glass or a telescope. But every once in a while, the moon shines bright enough and the sun comes up, bright enough that even Murray can have a great game.
But Mike, I asked you a question about Denver earlier. I'm asking you the same thing. What would you do if I told you at the beginning of the season that Week 9 the Cardinals would be in first place in the NFC West? What would you say?
Well,
what would
you
you
could
say?
have said,
What
I
would be
said
more
no.
believable, that the Broncos are 5-3 with the Ravens, or that the Cardinals are first place in the NFC West?
Uh, that's a tough pick. That's a tough.
I'm impressed.
I
I'm impressed,
yeah,
Mike. I will say this. I know you're not a fan of Kyler, but I'm impressed.
no, it's not.
I'm impressed with the 4-4 because
It's
here's the
just
other
a
thing,
mistake.
Mike. It's not just him. I'm not gonna give it all
It's
to him.
not. It's not.
Marvin
It's not.
Harrison Jr. has lived up to the hype. He had the first game where he had like
And I
no
love it.
catches or whatever, one catch for 4 yards, whatever it may be. And after that, everybody's sitting here wondering, oh, is this guy? Is he really somebody? Oh, is this a bust? And he has shined. I give him a lot of credit to
Yes.
Kyler because yes, he has hit. It's impressive, Mike. You have the Rams, who everybody was thinking could go, 12-4 this year, 12-4, whatever, win the division. The 49ers going to win the division. 49ers going back to the Super Bowl to play the Chiefs this year, whatever it may be, or the Rams go to the Super Bowl. Seattle's a sleeper team. This that nobody's talking about the Cardinals yet. They're first place right now. The defense, granted, they're not great. I like James Conner.
No.
James Conner is a very good running back. I think James Conner is very underrated as far as the running back. The Bears' defense is good. Now, I think there's going to be some fits. This isn't going to be a, they're not going to light up the scoreboard in this game. I don't think Caleb and him are going to go back and forth. But I do like what the Cardinals are doing. The Cardinals are at home. I think Marvin Harrison's going to have a great game. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. will have a good game. Kyler and them will. I think the Cardinals find a way to win this game. They do come out, and I like them to cover the spread too. I think they'll win by like a field goal. They probably win on the last second field goal to win the game.
Yeah, this is what I'll say about them. But Kyler continues to be a little bit of a hit and miss. When he's on, he's pretty decent. When he's off, it's rough. You know what I think about Harrison? I think he's everything says future Hall of Famer to me with this kid. He's got the right attitude. He's got the ability. They are playing for first place, obviously. They're technically in first place, even at 500. I do feel, though, by the end of the season, the division will come down to the Rams in San Francisco. I just don't have that kind of belief in the Cardinals. But I do have enough belief in the Cardinals to win this game against Chicago and to cover on the spread. And we'll see how Caleb does. That could be interesting, too. We'll see what happens.
That's the one I want to say is what he bounces back and does after that loss.
And that's my last point on this, too. It's going to be interesting to see how Chicago bounces back from that game as a team.
Absolutely.
That's a tough loss.
Absolutely.
So let's see what happens.
Absolutely. Next game, probably the biggest game on the agenda this week. Lions at the Packers. Detroit is a 2.5-point favorite on the road to these Packers. Mike, Lions are on a tear. We talked about it earlier. They're just lighting up that scoreboard, right? It doesn't even matter. Goff's he's locked in. That Lions team's locked in, man. I don't know.
The whole team.
But at the same time, Packers are not a terrible team.
No. But you've got to start quarterback. You've got to start quarterback.
But here's the thing: Love is very inconsistent to me this year.
Yeah.
Very inconsistent.
Yep. Exactly,
but Jared Goff this year, that's for sure.
No, and I know that he said I'm going to play, and obviously now it looks like he may not play, so it looks like it's a game time decision. Personally, I don't know. Maybe you do let him sit. You've got a decent backup with the Packers. Maybe just let it go. Let's see, just let Love set. But I know it's a big game. Both teams, I think Green Bay needs it more than Detroit right now, obviously, because Detroit's in the driver's seat.
Yes.
But again, we look long term. Do you put Love out there and potentially make things worse or that type of thing and jeopardize the rest of your season? Or do you put him out there and try for the win and hope nothing bad happens? Regardless of whether he plays or not, I love Green Bay. I like what they're doing. I think they're just still going in the right direction. But Detroit is really good.
Yeah.
And they've got Campbell's mentality.
I'm with you.
And I love what I see out of Detroit. I'm rooting for Detroit. I love Detroit. I've always been a fan of Detroit. And I really do. I think they're going to keep the ball rolling. They're going to go in there. They're going to take the win. They're going to take the point spread and cover it.
Well, and here's my thing is I brought this up a few weeks ago when Aiden Hutchinson went down. I said, how are the Lions going to respond with this injury, right? How's the defense going to respond? How's the whole team? They have not lost a beat. They've actually stepped up, if anything, and played even better since he's gone down. Which is a good sign. Usually if a player goes down, your team, like I said, goes one way or the other. And the Lions have done nothing but go up. I love what's going on in there. I love the offense. They look like they're going to be hard to mess with. If Love does not play in this game, Lions definitely. I mean, I have the Lions winning this game no matter what. I think they win regardless of who is. If Malik does play, it's going to be a rough game for the Packers. Love needs to play for this game to be somewhat close to have a chance in it. But I like the Lions here. I definitely like them to cover this for sure. They're just on a whole nother level right now. And I think right now they are the best team in the NFC for sure, hands down.
I'll tell you what, bud, real quick, going back to Tennessee just for a quick second. You know, Tennessee, why don't you think about this? Maybe Malik's available, unless the Packers just absolutely want to hold on to him. So, hey, kid can play. He did pretty well when he filled in for Love. I'm not saying he's not taking you to the Super Bowl, but, you know, Tennessee, if you're looking for somebody to come in maybe and just give you a little bit of time and see what he can do, you know, get him back out there and let's see what can happen. But right now, if he does play, I think he can be very serviceable, but it's just not going to be enough against the Detroit Lions.
For sure. Next game on the list, we got the Rams at the Seahawks, another divisional game. Here, Rams are a 1.5-point favorite in this one. I like the Rams to win this, and I do like them to cover. Mike, I think what we've seen, Stafford getting both of his weapons back, that team's deadly. I think they are one of those teams that are under 500 right now that can make that push for the playoffs, for sure.
Yeah, McVay is one of the best coaches in football, I think, has been for years now. Very innovative, just very good at playing the game of chess, game to game. Like you mentioned with Stafford, when he's got his weapons, he's a killer. He's a gunslinger. And I love what the Rams are doing. But we talked about them at the start of the season, and then the injury set in. But I really thought they could be a sleeper pick to get back. And it looks like they could be making some noise as we, you know, continue down the road here. If they don't suffer any more significant injuries, I do like them to get in there, and I do like them to beat Seattle, and I actually do like them to cover. I like everything I'm seeing about the Rams right now. Defense is still just a little bit shaky, but I think they'll be okay.
Figure it out. They will. They'll figure it out for sure. All right, Sunday night game. Colts, Vikings, Flacco now taking over as the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts after Anthony Richardson
quit.
Got tired, I guess, right, Mike?
He
got
quit.
tired. He got tired. Mike, he's tired. He's running. He's running.
Quit.
He's tired. Mike, I joke about this, guys, but this is ridiculous. I've never seen a quarterback take himself out. I have never seen a quarterback take himself out. Now, Mike, is this just lack of just training? Is he not in shape? Is he really just that exhausted, or is this guy is he not ready to be an NFL quarterback yet?
He's not ready, but I think a lot of it's immaturity. And we talked about this. We talked about this throughout the season. He even going back to last season, he just, through injuries, he's never had the chance to get the reps to really find where he's at, and he still hasn't been able to find where he's at yet because of injuries and things like that. But to go out there and make a move like that, unfortunately, what it tells your teammates, it says more to your teammates about you than you.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, what do you think as another player on that field, you see your quarterback motioning as a lineman, an offensive lineman, you see your quarterback motion. He's like, I'm here blocking for you every single play, and you're tired? You want to go to the sideline? I'd love to go to the sideline right now, but we're on the offensive side. You play one side of the ball.
And I don't even make the money you make. This is what you do?
I think this is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I sure hope, and because I've heard this too, a lot of people are saying, oh, wow, I think it's too soon. You guys pull the trigger on him, give the guy a chance. It's not that they're not giving him a chance to play. It's the fact. It also has to do with the fact that he gave up on his team. You quit on your team. It's not always just about that they're just saying, wow, we're going to go a different route, and that. Part of it is, I mean, he's the lowest percentage or quarterback percentage this year, and for rookies, I think of all time, or second year players of all time, I think I don't know if I think quarterback percentage, completion percentage all time, he was like last or second to last at like 42% or so. I think Tebow was like next on that list or something like that too at like 45 when he was with Denver. 42% of your completions you're making. So yes, it is your performance as one, but at the second half, it's like, how do you quit on your team as a quarterback? As a quarterback, you are the leader of that team, and you literally quit on them and said, I can't go no more. You can't leave that out on the field. Those guys do not respect you anymore as a ball player because you quit.
And you're not quitting on, and not that it matters, but you're not quitting or taking a break on a 1-6, 1-7 football team. You're saying I can't continue on a team that's literally competing for a division title and still
Texans
fighting for a solid
playoff. Yes, Thursday night. You have a chance to make a push in this division, and you're tired.
Yeah, and as your teammate, I'm looking at this as we got a chance to go to the playoffs, and I can't even count on you to stay out here because you feel like you're too exhausted to go. Well, then get out. Let me have the guy that's been to a Super Bowl, who's won a Super Bowl, who's been an MVP of a Super Bowl, who's been a winner everywhere he's played. He had his struggles with Denver when he was there for a bus stop. But typically, any place Flacco's gone, if they've asked him to produce, he's done it.
But also,
and
at
he's
the
done
same
it with
time, Mike, how much does this fall on the coaching staff and nutritionists or whatever they have? Because here's the other thing is, why is he tired, though, if he is? Is he not working out enough, or is his diet not good enough? Why is he tired anyways? That's not just on him as a player by making sure you're eating right, you're doing, but the coaching staff, they don't realize that he's not tired. Are they not working him enough in practice? How do you not realize that this guy doesn't have the stamina to be out there every single play to be a quarterback in the NFL?
Well, the other part of that, though, Bud, is that Flacco, when he was out there, when Richardson was hurt, had shown that he was productive. The team responded. They got some wins. And then as soon as this kid is ready to go back out there, you put that – I'm sorry, you don't do that. You run with what you got. I get it. Like you mentioned, the last few weeks, we drafted you for a reason. We gave you this contract for a reason. Well, then get out there and prove it to us. But now here we sit with a kid who just, oh, man, that was a tough run. Well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have a lot of tough runs in your career, probably. You're going to go out every time.
Michael Vick felt most of his career. Vick would take off on a 50-yard run before he went off on the 50-yard run, he had to scramble about 20 yards to get away from everybody behind him and then take off for 50 yards down the thing and then get right back to the huddle and go do it all over again.
Jaden, Lamar, I'll even throw Kyler Murray in there with his ability to run, right?
Steve Young used to run all the time, and that guy would never get tired. I never seen Steve Young get tired. Randall Cunningham didn't get tired. Tons of quarterbacks. It's just lack of, I don't know if it's, like I said, I don't know if it's lack of just the diet. I don't know if it's just his lack of just not caring too. I mean, for me, you get a chance to be an NFL quarterback, start for an NFL team. Yeah. And that's what you do out there? That's ridiculous.
And again, you start pulling this crap, and like you talked about last week, bud, you start pulling stuff like this, at some point, that offensive line, guess what? That hole that was this big to let the linebacker come through, now becomes this big.
Absolutely.
Because those guys are going to say, you know what? If you want to quit, then okay, I'm not blocking for you.
For sure.
Take the shot.
For sure.
And so be careful what you do. I do like did I take the Colts here? I did, or did I?
I'm taking the Vikings. I am taking the Vikings myself. I like the Vikings at home here.
No, that is right.
The Vikings need this win. They need it bad because here's the other thing is, I think the reason why the Vikings need it so bad is like the Lions and the Packers are playing each other this week, right? So if the Lions lose, Packers will, Packers move up 7-2. They win, they're going to be 6-2. Also, but if the Lions do win, they go 7-1. Vikings go up to 6-2. Packers drop. They get to move up in the division. So I think this is a big win for both teams. But I think it's a little bit bigger for the Vikings, especially coming off another loss, right?
Yep. Back to back.
And losing to the Rams. That's not great either. So yeah, two losses. This is huge for the Vikings now. They got to win it. I don't like them to cover, though. I know they are 5.5. I think this game's going to be close. I think it's going to be a pretty good Sunday night game, especially with Flacco in there now. So give me the Vikings to win, but not to cover the spread.
Yeah, we talked so much about the Colts there, but you kind of forget, the Vikings get lost in the mix. But 2-game losing streak. There's been some struggles. It's going to raise a lot of questions if the Vikings lose this game.
Well,
Whether
and it's not, and as we should say, I mean, there's a lot of problems on Indy. There's still problems in Minnesota. I know Jordan Addison went on his social media and was saying to free him, get out. He's not happy there either.
Oh, I know.
So I know there's not a lot of happy people in a lot of these teams. But here's my question for Jordan: is you were just 5-0, you lost 2 games, so now you're ready to get out? What? Because you're not undefeated? I mean, what did you expect, to go undefeated all season? You're missing some of your play. So what? I get it. If Justin Jefferson is not out there, you're number one. For sure you're number one on the team. You are not a number one wide receiver, though, on this team. You shouldn't be worried about, you're not getting your touches. Okay, I'm sorry. They got JJ. He's the best wide receiver in the league right now. In my opinion, Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the league. I would take him 10 times out of 10 right now as my wide receiver.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Addison, but you're not up at there. For you to be sitting here, free me. You guys have lost 2 in a row. You should be worried more about why you've lost 2 in a row than worry about getting out. Yeah, everything's all great when you're winning, right? But as soon as things start losing, then everything starts coming out.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but again, much like a guy who quits on a play, I mean, if you're going to start bellyaching just because things aren't going right, then either then get out or just keep your mouth shut. Just go out there and play. You're getting paid to play anyway, so just shut up and just get out there and do your job. I mean, that's what we need right now. With all that being said, I think it is going to be a close game, but like you call, I am taking the Vikings to win. But something tells me with Flacco out there, Colts are going to find a way to make this a little bit more interesting. It's going to be a little bit closer at the end than Viking fans are comfortable with, but the Vikings will win the game, but Colts to stay within the spread.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, last game of the week, Monday night game, Buccaneers at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a 9.5-point favorite. Mike, I believe that line is a little bit higher only because the Bucs don't have their star players, right? No Evans, no Godwin. I think they have both of those. This game's a little bit closer than a lot of people think, right? I've always been high on the Bucs, but them losing these players really hurt them. I mean, that's why they're 4-4. The injuries have screwed them, but man,
but look at the points they still managed to put up.
I know, right? I know.
I mean, they still put up points, and that's a credit to Baker, the coaching staff. But you still need those 2 guys, and eventually it fully catches up with you. And I
mentioned him last week. Kate Otten could be somebody that can do it, and he had a tremendous game. The tight ends went off last week. Tight ends were on fire last week in the NFL. And if they want to have a chance to win this, Kate Otten needs to have another great game for Baker. White had a good game. He's been able to rush the ball a little bit more. Rashad needs to be able to, because they need to control the clock more against Kansas City. Not let Kansas City have the ball. Use more of the play, the clock. Run the ball. Get in the end zone. You need to score. No field goals. Touchdowns. When you get into that, put it in the end zone. Don't settle for field goals against Kansas City, because Mahomes will make it. But at the same time, as much as mistakes Mahomes make, that's why you need to score touchdowns. That's why you need to make the best of it, because he can make a mistake this year, guys. Mahomes is that guy that he's thrown an interception in every single game so far this year. So here's the thing: if you can find a way to get you score on him, you get another, you get a turnover, go down there and you get up by 2 points and you don't stop. That's what you got to do with as the Buccaneers. You just don't let them get into this game at all. It's going to be tough. I like I said, I do have the Chiefs still winning this, but I think this game, like I said, would be different had Evans and Godwin been able to suit up for them, though.
Yeah, and we talked about Patrick and the struggles he's having, but at the end of the day, if you want to beat the team, you got to beat the team, and so far nobody can find a way to beat the team. And that's a credit to the coaching staff and even Patrick for whatever he does do. And even if it's just in clutch moments as opposed to the whole game, he's always going to have that winner ability, that winner mentality, and he can always make a play at some point, sometime, and that's still there. The defense for Kansas City playing just really well. Spagnuolo may be the best defensive coordinator in football. I'm not sure, but it's debatable that he's not. He just rises to the occasion. And that's just too much for Tampa Bay to overcome. So, I mean, I would probably not have thought Kansas City would be potentially undefeated after the Tampa Bay game, but it looks like they very well could be. And they're just one step closer to wrapping up the division. and just making sure they get home field advantage. And at that point in time, they'll get some players back, and the players that are already there, they'll have a little bit more time together over the next part of the season to refine things. Going to be tough to go into Kansas City because that's how it plays out and to get back to the bowl. But Kansas City is looking like they could potentially make 3 in a row as far as getting there. Kansas City to win, Kansas City to cover, bud.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you.
It's just,
I want to.
And I love it.
I definitely am having Kansas City win. I just 9.5 is high. Like you said, I feel like you said, they could put up points. That's the thing. But that defense for Kansas City is pretty stellar. They need guys like Godwin and Evans to make a difference against that defense like Kansas City. So I will go ahead and say Kansas City will cover the spread too on that one.
It's amazing. And they'll still be undefeated. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it has been it's been a crazy season this year so far.
It has.
Halfway through, guys. It's crazy to think that we're halfway through the season now almost. And we've brought up a few of these things, right? We got the Broncos 5-3, who we once talked about. We didn't even know where they'd be with their 5-3, playing a 5-3 Ravens team that we never thought would happen, right? We got the Cardinals playing this week, who's number 1 in the NFC West at the 4-4 record, right? Which nobody expected that in the NFC West. Even the Chiefs being 7-0, I don't think a lot of people expect that either. Where they're at, Jaden Daniels with Washington at 6-2. Running away, as you could say, with the Rookie of the Year title, where a lot of people thought this was Caleb's year, right? Caleb should be Rookie of the Year. Caleb's running with it. That's not the case either. So it has been a little bit of a different year. Like I said, but it's exciting, right? It's fun. It's fun. I think it brings more excitement to the game. It's not the same old boring teams. Granted, a few. Obviously, we're in the Mahomes era, so we have to deal with certain guys. It's just like when Brady was in New England. It's like there's other teams, right? When Jacksonville with Blake Bortles made it to go and play Tom Brady, right? That was exciting. That's something new. But Brady was still there because it's the Brady era. We're in the Mahomes era, right? So he's going to be there. But there'll be other teams. But there's other players coming in. We've talked about the Goff. We've talked about Jaden. These are some new players that I'm hoping Washington can keep doing what they're doing. I'd love to see Jaden be in the playoffs right off the bat and see just what he does. I would love to see him. And even if he loses the first game but plays well, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I just want to see him try to make it. I just like to see things get shaken up a little bit. That's why I was happy to see Houston kind of step up with D'Amico. I like the Jaden, thing now too, for them. I don't even mind the Pittsburgh thing right now, right? With the way Pittsburgh's been playing and Russ and all them, and that's a team and that's a coach too, right? You talked about Spagnuolo on the defensive side. Well, when you talk about head coaches, a lot of people talk about Andy Reid being great, and he is. Andy Reid's Hall of Fame, top notch for sure. But Mike Tomlin's there too. I mean, look what he's done. You want to talk about people that do things with teams that have nothing. Mike Tomlin does a lot of stuff with the teams that don't have a lot. What you would think they don't have a lot, right? According to them, they have enough, right? I mean, they wouldn't be where they're at if they didn't have the players that they had, so they know what they're doing. Mike Tomlin is a very, very is a good coach, and I think when it's all said and done, we might look at maybe Tomlin being, if he can get another ring sometime before he says it's all said and done, maybe around Rushmore when it's all said and done for Tomlin.
I mean, he would have gone to 2, possibly won 2, lost 1, that type of thing. But he would have coached potentially in 3 Super Bowls.
But I think two rings should be solidify himself enough in Pittsburgh.
Pretty solid case. And
if he can keep that never being an under 500 coach, why wouldn't you? I mean, you've never had a losing season plus 2 rings. I think that says a lot about you as a coach. I mean, he's got to be up there.
Well, I'm glad you brought Pittsburgh up because obviously they're off this. They were off this. So you're not going to focus on them. But let's get real here. This is because I had Chicago's coaches possibly being, my leading candidate for potentially coach of the year. Things play out differently. But, I never thought I'd be looking at Tomlin, as maybe we have to look at this guy now with what he's done in Pittsburgh this year. That's a pretty good coaching job. Absolutely. And he does a great coaching job every year. But look what he's doing. He tried to figure out the quarterback situation. And then you get a lot of kickback and blowback because you pulled Justin, and here's Russ, and Russ coming off the Denver fiasco, And then the first game out starts out rough. Once he gets settled, everything starts to flow. He's had 2 games now where he's looked pretty good. And now Baltimore's got to think about this because a lot of people thought, probably you and I did too, to a degree, Baltimore stays healthy, they'll probably run away with it, unless Cincinnati can get it together. But here we go. Since Baltimore continues to struggle, now Pittsburgh does have one of the toughest schedules on the back end of the season. So they got one of the 5 toughest schedules, and they've got all their division games coming up.
Yep.
So it's going to be tough for them. But you would want to go into battle with Mike Tomlin.
Well, I will say this.
And why? I mean, come on.
I will say this about Tomlin. I don't think, maybe other than Andy, which still I'm iffy about that, there is nobody else that could have handled that quarterback situation any better than he did.
Yeah, I agree with you about that.
Nobody.
I agree with you.
Because most coaches, like I said, other than maybe Andy, everybody else would have been like, "What are you doing?" The fan base would have got on him. No, you can't do this. And even they started to, right? That first few drives with Russ, he couldn't really move the ball. He didn't look great in that first game back. But then he started. I mean, then it just started clicking, right? I mean, he didn't look like he had enough on his balls that he was throwing. But then it just started going. And then this last week, he looked great again. So I think they have something going here. I think everything that Tomlin has done this year has been spot on, perfect for this Steelers team.
Yeah, I think it's been really
starting
well
with Fields, letting Fields go, and as soon as Russ was ready, you threw Russ in. That was your key. Like I said before, I think that was the talks. I think both Fields and Russ knew the situation. I don't think either one of them were not known what was happening. I don't think anybody was in the dark about anything. I think they both went to both and said, "Hey, Fields, right now Russ is just not 100%. This is why we have you in here, because I think we have the chance to be a good team. You give us that opportunity, but when Russ is ready to go back, he will be in. If he doesn't, live up to what he was supposed to be, we'll have you to fall back on, and you can, resume your duties." I think they both knew, because I didn't see anything different between them that said, "I'm angry at Tomlin," anything like that. The team is meshing well. The team's still playing at a high level, and Pittsburgh,
and
Justin said, I didn't sleeper team.
Yeah, and Justin said, I didn't deserve to be the starter. I'm still making mistakes, and there's some things I need to improve on. So I get it. I'm good with it, and that's the kind of team mindset you want to have to be successful, and I think they'll build on that. I want to ask you something though, away from the field, but in the booth.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of these you've seen. Now I've seen a few. And I don't know why Brady is getting so much blowback on his performance. Now, he did start out rough. I mean, he did, but so has anybody else that's had, just been put in that position. I mean, Tony had that problem.
It's Tom.
But I
Brady.
look at Tom, and I'm not looking at Tom thinking he's out there just blowing the games with everything he's talking about. I think he's done a serviceable job. But I was like, I wanted to ask you about that. I don't know how many of his games you've seen. I
have not seen a lot. I've just heard kind of the feedback that I've heard, like you're hearing and stuff, and what you're saying. But for me, it's the same thing. A lot of these players that start doing this, you have to learn how to switch your modes. You have to switch from player mode to analyst mode or to coach mode, whatever it may be. And some players can, some players can't. Some players can do things when they're retired that other players can't, right? Jordan was a tremendous player, but he's an awful owner, GM, whatever. He can't draft. He doesn't have a good team. He's nothing, right? Tony Romo was a very good quarterback. He don't got the rings that Brady has or anything like that, but he makes Brady look terrible when it comes to announcing, right? We're just good at different things. This is his first year. This is his first season. He's not even through the first season of anything. Let him get comfortable. Let him get out of that player mode still. Let him get used to what it's like, what he needs to say. Dive more deep into it, because I think Brady has a lot to give. He has a lot to offer. Something that, like, these players that learn. I think even, like, young kids nowadays that watch and listen to games that, like, Romo does, or even these past players, where they can give the insights. They know a little bit more. They can explain, like Tony, like with some of these broadcasters, they can't explain exactly how to beat a cover 2 defense, or how to mix with this blitz, what they're calling out here. That's why guys like Aikman, Romo, Brady, when they're there, they call it out. Oh, they're audibling, and we're probably going to switch over to a screen now because he's seen the defensive back coming off on the weak side on the blitz, so they'll just dump it off. And sure enough, that's exactly what runs, right? So
Yeah.
I think kids can learn from this too at the same time because I'm learning what to see. I'm watching the game as it's playing. They're running it on here for me. This is cover 2. So when you're playing as a young quarterback in high school or middle school, even at the college level, when you're watching this, right, you can now learn while watching these games how to play the game of quarterback if you want to, and how to beat these defenses from great quarterbacks and even the GOAT himself, right, nowadays. So he just needs to get settled in. Let him get through a season. Let him get through it all. Let him come back next year, and if he's still bad next year, then fine, call for it, but give him a year at least. Let him finish out.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it is, and we both had negative thoughts about it. He got the big contract, and he was removing Greg Olson, and who I think is one of the absolute best commentators going, period. And so I know there's a lot working against him. But watch time, he's pretty good. He's getting better. He speaks on his position, but he also reads what's going on. So that's kind of fascinating to me.
I have no problems with his ability to do it. It's just, how do you give somebody that kind of contract that's never done the job?
Exactly, and you're replacing a guy that I thought was phenomenal,
That's
Greg
fine.
Olson.
You're paying him to be your quarterback. That's fine. He's earned every single penny that he's gotten. That's fine with me. You're paying him to be your quarterback. Give him whatever the hell the guy wants. But at the same time, it's if you're just going into a new job, something you've never done, and you're going to start giving this more money, and you're taking somebody out, like you said, like an Olson that's done a decent job, done well. It kind of, I don't want to get off subject here too far because we said we're going to talk about this probably next week, but it just kind of gives you that Bronny James vibes where you see it more in these sports now, where it's just favoritism. Favoritism is huge now in these sports, and you just see it more often because and I think favoritism's always happened a lot in sports. It's just because of social media now and all this and that, you just see it more. It's out there more, and it's easier to come across because of social media now. But of course, like I said, back in the day, I'm sure it was just as bad too. But I at the same time, it's just worse because now we're able to see it all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I brought that in part because of Tom, but also to wrap it up, I just want to give a quick shout out. Me and your dad talked about this gentleman just the last couple of nights.
Yeah.
Bob Costas is obviously he's announced he's stepping away from from broadcasting sports. Yeah, with the MLB, and he's been doing it since late 1932. But just a phenomenal voice. His insight into the game of baseball is phenomenal. If you listen to him talk about it, if you step away from him broadcasting it, you listen to the man talk about the history of baseball. He's like just a walking almanac.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's insane.
Folks, I talked about Bob Costas. Mike and I did a top 10 list of our sportscasters, and I did talk. So if you guys haven't heard me talk about Bob, like I said, I don't want to go too in depth because we don't have a lot more time left. Because I could talk about Bob, a lot. Because Bob didn't just do one sport. He was one of those guys like the Al Michaels
Olympics.
and stuff. He did Olympics. He's done basketball. He's done some of the biggest games. Mm-hmm. He's done Jordan's last shot. He's done some amazing Olympic things. He's done World Series. He's done all kinds of different things. He's done NFL too. He's done golf, I believe, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So he's done quite a bit of things, and he's tremendous at everything. And like Mike said, he is a walking almanac. You guys ask this guy any kind of questions you want, and he'll know the answer right off the top of his head for the most part. But like I said, go back to our episode where we talk about our top 10 sportscasters. I do talk about Bob there, but it does suck to see him leave. But much respect.
It's time.
Enjoy it for sure. You gave us so much, so we appreciate everything that you gave us watching sports, growing up with that. You'll be missed for sure out there. But unfortunately, it's happening to a lot of these great ones, Mike. They're starting to leave the sport, and it's kind of starting to suck, huh? A little bit.
It kind of starts to, the one thing I just told you, this is the thing, Bud, real quick, folks, and we're going to wrap it up here, but I've told Bud, I never feel old. I really don't. Mentally, I probably feel like I'm in my 40s, that type of thing. The only time I feel old is when I look at this gentleman next to me and his sister, because I've been around his sister since she was 2. I was there before this gentleman was born. So you see, God kids, those type of things, and you watch them grow up. And now this gentleman next to me has kids that are now going to school and those type of things. So then you look at yourself and you're like, man, I'm getting up there.
I know. I already feel.
But it's cool.
I
It's
feel
cool
old
to
too.
see.
Both my kids in school now. I feel old enough. I mean, Jesus, we were just. I mean, like I said, we had the Halloween stuff. We were just out doing Halloween stuff. I felt old just trying to walk around these places, and that's why I said I'm like that old guy. Cause I'm like, man, it's cold. I don't know if we should stay out too late. It's getting cold out here. I can't even stay out late no more. That's the other problem.
I know it. I know it. But Bob, a salute to you, sir. Thanks for all your broadcasting, and you got 2 fans right here that have
Definitely.
really
No,
enjoyed.
I agree.
Yeah.
And like I said, it does suck, but I mean, in the end, there's still some guys that I've started to watch more that I've enjoyed, and I think I mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned to you. I think I did mention to my dad, but I've actually been really starting to enjoy watching the college football game day crew. I believe what is it, Reese Davis and Desmond Howard. They have Nick Saban on there now with them, and Kirk Herbstreit, Lee Corso gets on there with them, but also adding Pat McAfee, I think, is one of the best.
I love
McAfee.
McAfee.
McAfee, man, I know you probably don't pay attention to anything we do, but man, we love you over here, man. I love watching his show. If I can catch it, I do as many times as I can. I love watching him on the game day. I love that he does the field goal kicking with those kids and with the money.
Well, and don't forget,
he's been giving away a lot of money recently. Them kids be knocking their field goals in recently.
Yeah, and don't forget, he stepped away until the end of the playoffs with football, but he's also heavily involved with the WWE.
Oh, he does
He's
all kinds of stuff.
he's on the Monday Night broadcast, so this guy is everywhere.
Everywhere. He does everything. And then, like I said, I love having Nick. I think they're adding Nick Saban. I was wondering how Nick would be outside of doing, but Nick Saban's just like Bill Belichick, right? They fit right in after. You would think, but that just shows you the kind of coaches they were, right? It's all business. When you have me on this field, you're paying me to be the coach of this team, then I'm going to be the coach. I'm all about business when I'm a coach. But when I'm outside of here, I can have fun. I could do all of this stuff too. Bill's having so much fun. He's doing all this stuff on. He's been on the Mannings on Monday Night Football. He has his. I think him and Peyton have their show together now that they do.
Yeah, he's on a couple.
I don't even know if he's
podcasts.
gonna want to coach, man. He seems to enjoy, and he's fun to watch on these shows. Same thing with Nick. You're just used to seeing Nick Saban mad with Bama on the field and all this and that. Nick has so much fun on there too. All those guys have so much fun. I love watching that college game day if possible. They're fun to watch. So it's nice to see, even though some are still leaving, that there's still some more that are coming out that are kind of give you that same feeling that you used to when you watch them.
You know what's cool about game day, Bud, and it has been for years. It just gets better and better and better. They're as big an event on the campus as the actual game is.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love they go to these schools and they're all behind them, and that's why I love McAfee, because he'll get that crowd going for whatever.
Go the other way.
And then give me. Did you see the Bama one? He did that with Georgia. He had the Georgia one. He's rocking. Georgia,
I saw that one.
He had Georgia. Give me all Bama.
Yeah. And I actually happened to see that one when it happened, and I just thought it was classic. It was freaking awesome to see him hit the switch.
And Corso's the same way. I love how he brings the heads out and he puts them on, and I love Lee Corso. Lee Corso is amazing too. Kirk Herbstreit is another one of those guys that just a walking dominant when it comes to college, but he's been doing tremendous in football and in NFL too, right? I think Kirk's done great.
Yeah, I love what he does with Michaels on Thursday nights, on
Amazon.
And I was hoping it was going to work, but he'd been in college, and got Michaels with the program.
And Reese Davis is old. And Reese Davis is old school. He's been around for a while, but Reese is a tremendous host. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does, but Reese is very, very good. And then Desmond Howard. I always thought Desmond's been great for college. I think Desmond's another underrated guy that when it comes to college football talking, he's right up there as one of the best in my opinion too. So that's why I like that group. That group all together is great to see and watch.
Yeah, because they give you that vibe that they're not just sitting there together. They actually enjoy being with each other, and that's what helps make the show what it is. It's just like with Barkley and Shaq and the guys. It's how much they enjoy being together that makes the show what it is.
And they're bringing a lot of players back to their colleges and bringing because of the group that they have now. I think that's why they're getting more people to come see them. They're getting better. You know, I think Marshawn was just on there not too long ago. They're getting like Luke Combs. They're getting, you know, country singers. They're getting rappers. They're getting players, past players, coaches back that want to talk to them now because of just how good they are. It's like they've changed college football a little bit for the better. And like I said, I love it. I absolutely love it. It makes me just want to turn on College Game Day every single Saturday morning and watch them for sure.
Yeah, and the last thing I say about those guys, I like it too sometimes when they pull it, you know, a surprise, and they go to that little school that doesn't necessarily get a lot of, you know, props, things like that, but they'll show up for like the Appalachian State, or you know what I'm talking about, that, or the Kent State, you know, because they need their props too.
For sure.
And but the reception is just like it is at Bama or Georgia or Ohio State. Fans pull out in force. They just can't believe it. Rock stars on campus. These guys are the best. And they treat it like you're watching Ohio State and Michigan getting ready to go at it. They have full respect for the school and what they're trying to do. They never downplay it. They don't make it seem like it's second tier. It's these two teams are going to go to battle. And that's the way it should be, because there's still there's still, you know, 22 guys out there busting heads trying to win a football game. And so you just give them respect. And that's what they do best, is whether you're the small school or the big school, let's have some fun with this. I love it.
For sure. Well, folks, coming to the end of the episode here, another great one. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Got through some good stuff today, obviously. World Series talks. Got the AD versus Shaq things. Got our picks in. Let us know what you guys think about, how you guys felt about the World Series this year. Were you guys happy about it? Did you guys watch it? I know there was a lot of viewers, it seems like, this year, but were you guys happy with the 4-1 victory? AD versus Shaq. Who do you guys got in that matchup too? And then of course, leave us with your picks this week. Should be another fun and exciting week. We're looking forward to it. But once again, we just appreciate you guys tuning in for another great week, another great episode.
Yeah, it's always a good time of the year, folks. Obviously, baseball just wrapped up, but basketball, NBA is kicking into gear. College basketball is getting ready to start. Obviously, college football winding down and getting ready with the big excitement with the bowl season and everything and the playoffs. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But as like Mr. Anthony says, comments, concerns, appreciation, ideas, keep throwing those out to us. Whatever you think sounds good, or just what you'd like to hear, just let us know. But again, as always, to this gentleman to my right or your left, whichever your screen shows, what you see, what you hear, each and every week. If this gentleman right next to me is not here, it doesn't happen. It's his genius, it's his brilliance that makes it all happen. Without him, it's impossible. And he has my appreciation each and every week. So to Mr. Anthony Alvarez, I tip my hat.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Mike. This show doesn't happen without you also, though. So every single week we have fun getting this together. But I did want to let everybody know I forgot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over our predictions to start off the year. Next week, we're going to talk about, obviously, a little bit about basketball. We wanted to get into a little bit of these Denver Nuggets, some LeBron stuff that is kind of eating at us. But when we get into our picks and stuff, I'm going to go over our predictions. And what Mike and I are going to do, we're going to get a mulligan, okay? If we can either stick to what we had chosen, or we're going to be able to choose a new Super Bowl champion, even a new Super Bowl teams if we need to. Because, you know, like I said, it's been a tough week. I mean, a tough year so far for some of these teams that we may have thought were very good. But I will go back over them. We'll mention what we thought and where we're at kind of for halfway through the season where we had everybody ask. So we're going to go over that. So it's going to be a fun episode next week, guys, because like I said, we're going to go over our predictions, see where we're at halfway through the season. See if we're kind of spot on with some of our stuff. Mike, I know, has already kind of mentioned that his Super Bowl is a little bit rough so far this year, so he may make some changes. But you know, since he's got a good game this week, you know, maybe he may make changes, he may not. But next week for sure, guys, tune in because we're gonna go over our predictions at the beginning, make some changes if we need to, do our picks as always, and get into a little bit more basketball talk too next week. But once again, appreciate everybody for coming out, watching us. You guys, we appreciate it every single week. We don't know how much just that little bit of watching does for us. You know, we keep an eye on everything. But don't forget, you watch us, you like what you see, like, subscribe, hit that like button. it helps us a lot more than you guys think, for sure. So once again, like I said, appreciate you guys. We're A&M, almost mediocre sports guys. Have a great rest of the night. Enjoy the games tomorrow and stay safe out there, folks.
Good night, folks.